it's Wyvern here. I'm coming to you today with some Jungle Cup coverage, and I thought, what better spot to cover the Jungle Cup than in a rainforest? I was gonna shoot in the forest anyways, it ended up raining, and I promised this video today, so I decided to go ahead and record it anyways. It's not too bad out here, so let's go ahead and dive right into it. So Jungle Cup was announced 2 days ago, and in that time, everybody and their brother has made a video with a brief overview of it. Some people have even posted some videos of practice matches for it, so rather than do the same thing and do an overview of the Jungle Cup, which everybody knows about anyways, I'm just gonna talk about some more niche coverages of the Jungle Cup itself, while obviously addressing some of the more important points as well. So the first thing I wanna cover is some of the top Pokemon. You all know Fortress and Vigoroth are going to dominate this cup, but some that aren't getting quite as much buzz are Alolan Golem and Graveler, which I know are very high in the PvPoke rankings. A lot of people are talking about them, just not as much as Fortress and Vigoroth, since those two stand out above the rest. I think Golem is going to be very powerful. The winner of my Atlanta Tempest Cup that I went to, out of like 30 people, the main Pokemon on his team was Alolan Golem, and it performed very well there. So obviously this is a much different meta, but I still expect to see a lot of flying types, so that Rock Blast, Wild Charge with Rock Throw, I believe is the fast move, will be doing a lot of damage in this cup. Whereas Graveler, it doesn't have access to Wild Charge, but it's going to be a bit tankier than Golem. And Golem can be a little bit difficult to get under 1500 CP as well, so if you're not able to get that, definitely still use Graveler. It's going to be a very good Pokemon in this cup. Another one that's not getting a lot of hype is Scizor. Despite being the same typing as Fortress, one of the reasons I think those two will be so powerful is because of their Bug Steel typing. We had Wormadam banned, so that's not going to be a Bug Steel that we have access to, but having their only weakness be Fire and not having any Pokemon in this cup that are base Fire type is a huge advantage. Fortress is very tanky, Scizor is a bit more glassy, but it's still going to have that very good typing to make it a very strong Pokemon. With Fury Cutter as its fast move, that charges energy very fast as well, could start to get a little bit spammy with Scizor. As far as flyers go, having access to the normal type gives us the ability to use Pidgeot and Noctowl, which Noctowl saw a little bit of play in Worlds, Pidgeot not so much. You're going to need that Legacy moveset on it with Wing Attack as that fast move. I'll cover Legacy Pokemon at the end, but looking at those guys for a second, they're going to be pretty good Pokemon just based alone on the fact that you can get that extra move for only 10,000 Stardust. For budget PvP players like me, I didn't buy a second charge move on Fortress for Rainbow Cup. It might have helped me out since it's usable again here, so I'll have to look at that, I'll have to consider it. But for budget PvP players, Pidgeot and Noctowl are going to be a huge help in this tournament. Another Pokemon that was generating a little bit of buzz when the rankings first came out was Munchlax. It hits fast with Lick, and it's a very tanky Pokemon, even for being a baby evolution. You can get that second move very cheap on it as well. However, I don't think it's going to be worth running, just because with Vigoroth being the main Pokemon in this cup, you're guaranteed to see one on pretty much every team. You're going to have that counter as a fast move, which is a counter to Munchlax. So I'm going to try and avoid Pokemon in this cup that I know are going to be countered by a Pokemon that's going to be on everybody's team. So with that being said, I don't think normal types, aside from Vigoroth and the flying Pokemon, will be all that viable in this cup. So when I saw that Fortress was legal, the first thing I did was go ahead and compile a list of fire users in the cup. Unfortunately, none of them are all that viable. Of the bunch I'm about to list, Lopunny is probably the most viable, but we have Lopunny, Manectric, Exploud, Loudred, along with Porygon, Porygon Z, Porygon 2, and Manectric with Hidden Power as a fire fast move. And then we have Chatot, Staravia, and Staraptor with Heat Wave. None of those are going to be that good of moves, so like I said, Lopunny is probably your best bet, just having that Fire Punch on it. But like I said, talking about Munchlax, it's guaranteed to be countered by your opponent's team because you know they're going to be bringing a Vigoroth on almost every team of 3. So you're probably not going to want to run it, but you still might be able to surprise some Fortress and Scizor users with it. Otherwise, the best bet I would say is a Hidden Power user, whether it be Luxray or one of the Porygon family. That, again, might catch somebody by surprise, but it still might not be the best option for you to run in this tournament. So unfortunately, it looks like Fortress and Scizor are going to be wide open plays with next to 0 counters. So taking a look at what your team of 6 should look like, it's pretty straightforward for the first 4 Pokemon. You're going to want a Vigoroth, a Fortress, a Vigoroth counter, and a Fortress counter. So as far as those go, Vigoroth, the top 2 counters listed, or at least in my opinion, Breloom's the number 1 on PvPoke. I would say Heracross is probably the number 1, but both of those are going to be good Vigoroth counters. You have to be a bit careful with both of them since they're both 4 times weak to flying, so you don't want to get caught in a bad matchup or give up switch priority and essentially sacrifice one. So both of those are going to be risky plays. Otherwise, you can counter Vigoroth with another Vigoroth. You just have to be sure to switch in when your opponent has less HP than you do. And as far as Fortress goes, aside from those fire type users that I just listed, flying Pokemon are going to be your best bet. So like Noctowl and Pidgeot are going to be the two best options there. Otherwise, I know some of the bug Pokemon like Masquerain and Scyther are going to be running Air Slash as fast moves. Those can do some damage to Fortress as well, but like I said earlier, guys, I think Fortress is pretty much just going to be a wide open play in this tournament. If you don't have a good one for PvP, go out and get it. I've seen Fortress and Scizor on some initial look teams. I'm considering that as well. I don't have a great Scizor right now, so I would need to get one to kind of play test it a bit, but if you can bring two Pokemon that are tanky and don't have a weakness in this cup, I think you might be in good position to win. For the 5th slot, you're going to want to use an electric user, maybe even two for that 6th slot as well. We have Alolan, Geodude, Golem, and Graveler, as well as Lantern, and then Magnezone and Magneton. So you have some very good coverage there for electric. You have a lot of good ones to choose from, so just see what you're able to get your hands on under 1500 or right at 1500 CP. And then for that 6th and final slot, guys, just keep that open as a wild card slot. Outside of what I listed, I don't think there's anything too crucial in this cup that you need to bring. We've seen some other surprise Pokemon emerge as the weeks go on in different metas. So we saw Execute for Rainbow Cup kind of start rising in those rankings, winning a lot of cups. And we saw Celebi and Slowpoke as some surprise plays as well. Might not recommend those, but you can keep that 6th slot open for maybe a second bug Pokemon or something along those lines. So just keep that slot open, and I'll drop a team builder video a little bit later. We can kind of take a closer look at what that should be, but that's going to do it for what your team of 6 should look like. For what your team of 3 should look like, I think it's going to be a bit more similar to Nightmare Cup than Rainbow was. I don't think it's going to quite be a game of rock, paper, scissors, but I think you're going to see a lot of Vigoroth, Fortress, Noctowl. I think with those being the top 3, that's what you're going to see a lot of people play. If not Noctowl, a different flying type. But I think Vigoroth is going to be on almost every team of 3. Fortress, I'd say there's about a 75% chance. And then that last Pokemon, whether it's flying or not, might be able to sub it for an electric type. But I think most of the teams of 3 you're going to be seeing are going to be very similar to Nightmare Cup as far as how they play. Taking a look at legacy Pokemon now, the main viable ones that have been brought to my attention are Frenzy Plant on Venusaur and Sceptile, Thundershock on Magneton and Raichu with Discharge on Magneton, and then Wing Attack on Pidgeot. So this cup I really like about it. There's not nearly as many legacy Pokemon as there are in Rainbow. It seemed like in Rainbow Cup, half or more of your team had to be legacy if you wanted it to be good. So it's a nice tone back for Jungle Cup, and that's one thing I'm excited about for the month of July. If you guys made it this far, you are the real MVPs. Thank you so much for checking it out. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like and subscribe, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, whatever. Trying to get all hashtag battlers on Twitter, so that's a great spot to share it. Thank you so much, Maddie F. Baby, for the shout out. I got several subscribers off of that, and we are 1 away from 30. So you guys do your thing, like and subscribe, share it with your friends. And until next time, guys, I'm Wyvern.